Tim Burton's Alice in Wonderland, released in 2010, is what happens when you give an auteur-director a beloved classic and tell him, make it weirder, but also more generic. What we got was a film that had all the visual excess of a Hot Topic clearance sale but none of the charm, wit, or coherence that made Lewis Carroll's original work timeless. This movie is less Alice in Wonderland and more Alice in a CGI overdose, featuring Johnny Depp in one of his most inexplicably bizarre performances, which is saying a lot. Let's start with the plot, or rather, the haphazard collection of loosely connected events that Tim Burton tries to pass off as a narrative. The original Alice's Adventures in Wonderland was never about a grand quest or an epic battle between good and evil. It was a surreal, nonsensical dreamscape driven by whimsy and absurdity. But apparently Hollywood can't resist shoehorning in a chosen one narrative, so now Alice isn't just a confused girl wandering through Wonderland. She's a prophesied warrior destined to slay the Jabberwocky. That's right, folks. Alice in Wonderland has been transformed into Alice and the Battle for Narnia. Then we have Johnny Depp as the Mad Hatter, a character who should be a delightful, nonsensical presence but instead comes across as a manic depressive with an identity crisis. Burton clearly wanted to make the Hatter more complex, but complexity doesn't mean arbitrarily switching between a lispy lilt and a drunken Scottish brogue every few minutes. Depp's performance is less mad and more deeply unsettling. It's as if he's trying to win an Oscar in a movie where he's wearing oversized orange contacts and a fright wig that makes him look like Ronald McDonald's goth cousin. The visual style is, unsurprisingly, peak Burton, meaning everything is murky, overdesigned, and drenched in shades of brown and gray. Wonderland, or Underland as they call it for no good reason, looks less like a whimsical dream world, and more like an abandoned Tim Burton theme park. Everything is CGI'd within an inch of its life, making even the supposedly magical landscapes feel oddly lifeless. The Red Queen, played by Helena Bonham Carter, is probably the film's only real source of entertainment, but that's mostly because she's overacting so hard she might as well be in a completely different movie. Her giant head is the film's only truly memorable visual, and even that feels like a desperate attempt to make the movie look quirky. Meanwhile, Anne Hathaway's White Queen spends most of her screen time floating around like she's in a perfume commercial making exaggerated hand gestures as if she's conducting an invisible orchestra. If there was a competition for the most useless, least compelling character in a fantasy movie, she'd win by a landslide. And let's not forget Alice herself. Mia Wasikowska does her best with what she's given, but the script turns Alice into a generic, brooding action heroine instead of the curious, witty girl we all loved from the original story. By the time the movie ends with Alice awkwardly dancing the Futterwacken, a CGI abomination that should have been left on the cutting room floor, you can't help but wonder what exactly you just watched. In the end, Alice in Wonderland, 2010, is proof that not every classic needs a dark, gritty reboot. Sometimes a story about a girl wandering through a bizarre dream world should just be left as that, a dream. Instead, we got a joyless, self-important spectacle that somehow managed to miss the entire point of its source material. And for that, we should all take a moment to remember what Wonderland used to be before it was turned into a CGI battleground. Rest in peace, Whimsy. You never stood a chance. Thanks for watching. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe. Quirky Critic signing out.